Into email marketing now. So email marketing, very traditional form of digital marketing. It's been around the longest. It's kind of the grandfather of all digital marketing channels. So email marketing really is used to personalize emails in order to convert that recipient or that prospective user into a customer. And so like all the other digital marketing channels, we want to follow some type of flow or process or methodology. And the first step in email marketing is you have to identify your target audience. Okay, when you identify your target audience, you're going to create a segment. Okay, so in other words, you don't want to send one email to everyone because not everyone is going to be interested in that email. So in order to get somebody interested, you need to be able to send an email tailored to that audience. Okay, so that audience can respond and react accordingly. So once you target that audience and create segments, email segments, you're going to create the campaign and set up an appropriate call to action. One note here is when you create the campaign and set up that appropriate call to action, that call to action is going to be aligned with your goal. So what is the goal of the email campaign? Is it simply to get people to click on something and purchase? Or is it simply to get people to click on something and sign up or watch something or submit some information or download or whatever the case? You need to establish that up front just like you would with a search engine marketing campaign or any other type of campaign you want to run. So there are lots of tools out there. Just like with affiliate marketing, you want to choose an appropriate email marketing tool. There are plenty to be had. Each work in a very similar nature. Some offer different pricing models, meaning, you can send an email to X recipients for a flat fee, or you pay a small amount per email address. Each one is slightly different in terms of how they price, but in terms of the features, they all work in a very similar fashion. And we're going to show you an example of one here shortly. So when you choose that email marketing tool, you're going to test your emails before you send them out. And then when you test your emails, you're going to use that email marketing tool to actually send the campaign after it's been tested. Okay, so you want to send the campaign, you can immediately send them out or you can schedule them. Now, a best practice with an email is when you actually send one out, you're sending an email out to your target audience, you want to create probably 2 emails per segmented audience. Why? Because you want to add an attractive subject line and copy to the email. But if you send 2 emails to the same target audience, then you want to test the subject lines. You want to be able to see what subject line is going to entice somebody to open the email. Okay, that's the beauty of email marketing is you can do that. Okay, so you can set up a design based on your target audience, but it's always the subject line that people see first. So you want to write an attractive subject line and copy that's going to entice somebody to open the email. So why not send 2 emails to each target audience? That way you can see what email subject line works best. So that's the whole idea about performing A/B tests to test out different ideas. It doesn't necessarily have to be a subject line. It can be the same subject line, 2 emails, but the difference being the body of the email. It's totally up to you, but the idea here is to always split out your emails per target audience. And just like any other channel, whether it be affiliate or search engine marketing or organic search, you want to analyze performance. And in the case of emails, it's always about open rates. How many people are opening? Then how many people are clicking? And then how many people are actually responding? Are they converting or downloading or whatever it is you want them to do? You need to be able to monitor the behavior because, for example, if your open rates don't work, or they're low, then something's wrong with your subject line. So you want to be able to make an adjustment. So here's an example of an email from Airbnb. It's a simple email, okay? They're just simply trying to get somebody to click on that call to action to take the survey. Okay, that's really all it's about here with this particular email. So who's their target audience? Well, their target audience could be somebody who's already stayed at a Airbnb property. Or it could be somebody who used the app. probably Airbnb has already targeted this audience and they're sending this survey to a particular audience so that they can get the best results. Okay, so that's a good example of a targeted email with a good call to action that's getting somebody to take the survey. So they're probably measuring how many people opened it, how many people clicked on the CTA, the call to action, and then how many people actually filled out the survey. So you need to follow each step and track each step accordingly. Okay, so again, some popular tools used in email marketing. Let's take a look at MailChimp here. But I will mention like Marketo is a good marketing automation tool. Now owned by Adobe, Marketo allows you to send those drip campaigns. So if somebody doesn't purchase right away, you can send up follow-up emails, like say 1 day out or 7 days out or 14 days out. So HubSpot works in a very similar fashion. You want to be able to methodically plan out your emails. That's the point I'm trying to make here. So let's take a look at MailChimp. So if we go over into MailChimp, very easy interface. Okay, here, if we go under audience, we can actually see who our audience is. We can break out our audience into different groups. You can have a simple test list. You can have people who purchase, people who subscribe to something. Okay, so you can break out your audience into different groups. Okay, when it comes to campaigns, you can see campaigns that are already been built, or you can create your own campaign. Okay, so in the case of MailChimp, we can actually see what campaigns have been dropped or sent out already, and then we could see the opens, the clicks, and then the conversions. So MailChimp has some nice reporting, so you want to be able to measure the reports or how well the campaign performed. So here we can see specifically how many people opened, clicked, how many people bounced or email addresses bounced, and how many people unsubscribed from the list. And here we can see, the top links that have been clicked, okay, the subscribers with the most opens. Did anybody perform any social media activity? Okay, what locations opened the email? Okay, so you can actually see a lot of good information here right in MailChimp, and you want to be able to react to the emails you send out. So if an email is not performing, okay, you want to learn from that so you don't make the same mistake again. The great thing I like about MailChimp too, they have a lot of nice templates to use. So if you're trying to create a template, here you got some templates that you can leverage. So that's MailChimp kind of in a nutshell. MailChimp, you could pay up front, buy credits, and with those credits, you could send out emails to a number of people. Okay, so that's how MailChimp works. They do have a free trial, so you can set up an account using the free trial. Now let's finish up with online PR or press releases. So we talked about SEO and social and search and affiliate and email marketing and content native advertising. Let's talk about online PR here, because with online PR, it really does involve working with digital publications or blogs or other content related websites. For example, content related websites could be digital newspaper sites like the New York Times. Okay, the whole point of online PR is you want to try and get some publicity on those websites. Publicity means awareness for the brand, it means traffic to the website, and eventually some loyalty, future customers, and conversion. Channels that can be used to maximize your online PR efforts. For example, you can connect with reporters on social media to develop a relationship. So you can just follow some reporters, see if they're covering specific industries or verticals, and if they are similar to what you're offering, then it's probably a good idea to reach out to them. You can use engaging user reviews to help humanize your brand, or you can respond to comments that help generate productive conversations. So those are all certain things you can do to generate awareness and buzz for your brand. So really the one thing I want to point out about online PR is basically you can also hire a PR firm and they can do some of the heavy lifting for you. Or like I said, you can reach out to different reporters or different influencers even to help push your product or brand. Now, if you're trying to go at it alone on the online PR, what you could do if you don't reach out to reporters or influencers, or you're active in trying to build your brand through conversation, you can always use a third-party service like PR.com. So PR.com allows you to, basically create your own profile, submit content to your own profile, or even submit press releases. If you submit press releases, then other news agencies are going to pick up on those press releases. So it's a good way to get your press releases out there. Likes of Yahoo and Google might pick up those press releases and give you some, much needed visibility. You can also use other tools like, PR Newswire, for example. So it works in a very similar way. Again, it's a press release distribution network. So you can go ahead and sign up for an account, get that press release out there, and they do the distribution for you. Or you can also use aggregation sites. So there are lots of different aggregate sites out there. And so what aggregate websites do is they help disseminate and distribute your content. So here you can see some of the new aggregator websites of 2019. You got Feedly, Panda, TechMeme, Metacritic, eScience News, The Morning News. So you have a lot of options available to get your content out there. Okay, so what these sites do is basically pick up articles that fit their website, fit their theme, fit their target audience. So you do have options in the form of third-party tools as well. Okay, so if you don't hire a PR firm, which could be expensive, you can certainly go at it alone by signing up for any one of these particular products or services. Today, we're going to talk about digital marketing tools. So fasten your seatbelts and let's get started. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at some of the best digital marketing tools for not only 2019, but ones that have performed well in the past, that are popular, and ones that we foresee as being the go-to tools for the future. So past, present, and future digital marketing tools is the way to look at this, with a good focus on a lot of different marketing channels here. So we're going to focus first on SEO, talk about some of the tools related to on-page and off-page. We're going to switch over to paid search, talk a little bit about paid search tools. We're going to talk about email marketing and some of the email marketing platforms and the tools within those platforms. The center of it all is web analytics. So Google Analytics is the tool we'll be taking a closer look at in today's webinar and all that it has to offer. Okay, affiliate marketing. We'll talk about some of the tools available to you for affiliate marketing. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about social media and all that it has to offer and all the metrics and tools available, all the platforms available. So we'll hone in on a couple of examples there. And then we'll also talk about some competition tools available for you. So there's a whole suite of tools. The one caveat being, hey, if you have your favorite tool, continue using it. In fact, if there's a tool that we didn't mention in today's webinar, feel free to mention it in the comment box below this video. We'd love to hear what you're using to manage your particular digital marketing channel. Okay, and so the goal for today's webinar is, hey, we hope you get something out of this in terms of using new tools. There's some tools that I use, some tools that my colleagues use. Everybody uses different tools, so it'll be good to kind of see what else is out there. So if you have something to share, share it. By all means, what we're trying to do is share what we think are, best practices and some of the most popular or most used tools out there in the industry. So that's what we're going to do. The goal is to get you to better understand some of the tools we're using in a little bit more detail. And what we're going to do is start out with search engine optimization. Okay, so search engine optimization or organic search, we have a mixture of paid and free. So there's a lot of different platforms, but if you're focusing on SEO, you certainly need to use an SEO platform. So there's SEMrush. Okay, you also have Google Search Console, which is free. So if you don't have a SEO platform, you definitely need to be using Google Search Console. And so we'll take a closer look at that. There's Google Keyword Planner, which is actually situated under Google Ads. And so if you're running Google campaigns on Google Search Network or even the display network, you have access to a great tool called Keyword Planner. And if you know anything about SEO, you'll know that using Google's Keyword Planner is a good tool. So we'll take a look at that. Moz is a freemium tool, meaning they have a free trial that you can sign up for to test drive it, but it's another SEO platform and it does cost money. Got a great tool in Screaming Frog. That's a paid version. Again, not too expensive. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And then we have, a tool in Ahrefs that help us with all aspects of SEO, primarily focusing on off-page. So these are just some examples that we're going to hone in on, but this is just a small subset of what really is available out there in the market. So let's go ahead and dive a little bit deeper and understand why we use some of these tools. Well, the first reason when we talk about SEO is to find relevant keywords. Not only do we want to find relevant keywords, we want to find relevant keywords with high volume and low competition. Okay, we wouldn't want to find non-relevant keywords with high competition, low volume. That wouldn't make sense. So we need a tool to kind of help us put it all together. And so the tool of choice for us is Google's Keyword Planner. And Google's Keyword Planner helps us hone in on keywords we may be interested in optimizing for, because not only one, are they relevant, but two, they're going to have high volume and low competition. So let's take a look at an example in Google's Keyword Planner. So here I am, I'm in Google's Keyword Planner, and as I mentioned before, Google's Keyword Planner is situated under Google Ads. Okay, so you have to have a Google Ads account to use Google's Keyword Planner. And so when you're in Google Ads, you simply go to Tools, and then under Tools, you're going to select Keyword Planner. So what we want to do is look for keywords. We're focusing on organic search, not necessarily paid search. So organic search, we want to hone in on some keywords. So let's just use one of the examples that Google's given us here, meal delivery. So we're going to just type in meal delivery and get some results. So notice I can enter a domain as a filter. And so in other words, hey, I could say, look, hone in on keywords related to this website if I wanted to. But I'm asking Google, hey, just give me something closely related to mail delivery because that's my business. So I'm going to click Get Results. Notice I can add another keyword if I wanted to, but I'm just going to stick with one keyword. But there are certainly other keywords that I can certainly hone in on if mail delivery is my business. And so let's just hone in on that one keyword, mail delivery. We want to be found organically for that keyword. So what Google Keyword Planner does is not only give us the keyword and other keywords relevant to that, but it gives us the average monthly search volumes. And this is an average over the course of the last 12 months. And notice here, I get a column for competition. So I'm able to see whether that's a very competitive keyword or not. And then just to give you an extra edge when you're choosing keywords, you can get a sense of what the keyword may cost if you wanted to bid on that for paid search. So for mail delivery, I can see it's anywhere between $7.46 and at the top of the page, high range, $16.61. So that should alert me to the fact that, hey, if I'm going to try and optimize for this keyword, I know it's competitive because not only Google is telling me it's competitive by telling me high competition, but I know that the cost per click seems a little bit high. And what is a little bit high? Well, I could see some other keywords here that, $1 to $3. Okay, I could see some other ones that are even lower than the $7 they're suggesting. So that's an indication that the keyword is highly competitive. So the idea here using Google's Keyword Planner is, one, we want to get an idea of what other keywords are out there that are relevant. So it helps stimulate some ideas for relevancy. Two, we can get an average monthly search volume. So we want to know on average over the past 12 months, how many search queries I can expect from this keyword. And then three, I can get a sense of the competition. How competitive is this keyword? So if I try to optimize for this keyword and I want to rank for it organically, is it competitive? If it's competitive, then it's probably going to take me a bit longer to be found for this keyword on page 1 of Google. So that's the whole idea behind Google's Keyword Planner. And note that you could change some of the settings here. So if you want to choose a different language, okay, you can hone in on a longer or shorter period of time. You can even choose a specific location. So I chose Texas. I can certainly choose the entire United States to get a sense of what the volume would be for the total US. So you have settings that you can change and manipulate to get you the data you need to choose keywords. So that's the whole idea behind Google's Keyword Planner, to find relevant keywords, high volume, low competition. Now, alternatively, I can certainly use another tool to find keywords. So I have a Moz account, so I logged into Moz. And Moz has a tool called Keyword Explorer. So if I use that same keyword I used in Google's Keyword Planner, mail delivery, I'm going to ask Moz to give me some data on that keyword. So this is for the entire United States. And again, I can change that if I wanted to. Okay, so I can hone in on a specific country or different country. So what Moz is telling me, hey, for this keyword in the entire United States, I'm looking at anywhere from 11,500 to 30,000 on monthly volume. Now what Moz does is they give you a difficulty score. So a difficulty score is a score between 1 and 100. And so I could see this is pretty much right down the middle in terms of difficulty. Okay, so if it's 0, it's an easy keyword. If it's 100, it's very difficult. And then that means you have a lot of competitors who are optimizing for this keyword, that are ranking for this keyword. And so Moz gives us the volume, they give us the competition, and they, just like Google's Keyword Planner, gives us some other keywords that we can potentially hone in on. So here I could see keyword delivery plans, delivery services, etc. So I can see a lot more suggestions than what's listed here. So Moz delivers a bunch of other analysis related to the keyword. You know, they also give you some good keyword suggestions. So Moz is a good alternative tool, and we'll be coming back to Moz related to SEO for some other of its features. But for now, if you don't want to necessarily use Google's Keyword Planner because maybe you're not running Google Ads, you can always use Moz. Now remember, Moz has basically a freemium version, meaning you can sign up for a free account. And you could sign up for a free account as a test trial, and you could test it for a period of days and leverage its tools during that free trial to get a better sense of how these tools work. So we want to be able to use Moz. We want to be able to use Google's Keyword Planner, not only to search for all those relevant keywords available to you, but we want to be able to choose keywords with high volume and low difficulty, low competition. We also want to select primary and second keywords wisely. So remember, when you optimize, you're optimizing a page for more than one keyword. So you want to be able to have a nice portfolio of diverse, relevant keywords with high search volume and low difficulty. And then you want to be able to identify those keywords that your competitors are ranking for. So Moz gives you that information. And so we want to be able to leverage the tools available to us to choose the right keywords. So if you need any more information on this, we got a nice webinar on keyword research for SEO. So take a look at that video on YouTube to get more specific details about using SEO tools for keyword research and all about keyword research in general for SEO. So let's talk about some other reasons under SEO why we would use some of these tools available to us. Well, we want to be able to understand the search engines and how they crawl and index our site. Okay, we also want to check the correct format of the sitemap, and we want to monitor backlinks. Okay, we also want to analyze linking to our web page. Okay, which ones are good, which ones are not good. Okay, we also want to perform some competitor analysis. So these are some of the reasons why, other than keyword research, why would we use some of these SEO tools? So we have tools available to us, Majestic, Ahrefs, again, Moz. Let's take a look at Google Search Console. And I want to hone in on Google Search Console because it is free and it's a must. If you're going to work on SEO, you need to be working in Google Search Console. And so the whole key behind Google Search Console is you have a website and you need to get that site verified. Once it's verified, once Google can recognize that you are associated with this website, then you're going to be able to see some important information. So here I'm looking at a website, and what am I looking at? I'm looking at something called coverage under index. So what does coverage mean? Well, going back to what we just said, we want to be able to understand how Google's crawling and indexing our pages. And so what Google does is through this platform, Search Console, is they're letting us know once they go to our website and start crawling it, and they pull these pages back to their server, they're letting us know if we actually have any issues. So here I could see I have some issues with 112 pages. And some of those issues are listed down here. So there could be a crawl issue, a 404, redirect. Okay, so you could see there's some 5 unique issues across 112 pages. So here I could see submitted URL marked no index. There's 100 of those pages. We have some redirect errors. There's 7 pages that fall victim to this error. And so we can really hone in on what the error is and address the error. Okay, so if Google's telling us, hey, this is an issue, and you want that page indexed by Google, then we should probably address the error. And so that's the great thing here about going into Google Search Console is you can, under index, go to coverage and get a sense of what Google's indexing and what they're not indexing. Okay, so these are the errors. I could see they've certainly were able to crawl and index 9,115 pages. They were able to crawl, okay, and they excluded 54,000 plus pages. And then we also have some pages with some warnings. So this is kind of an overview of what Google sees when they crawl our site. So when they say crawl, they're coming to our site, they're following links on the site, and every link they follow, they're either going to index that page or they're going to report to you an error or an issue that they found. If we want these pages indexed, we need to address the issues, the errors. And so that's the beauty of this report here is Google is telling us firsthand what the issues are. So we also want to take a look at the sitemap. So you have an opportunity to submit a sitemap. And a sitemap is just a formatted file that includes all your website URLs. And so you're going to have this file sitting in your root directory. And you're probably going to call it, or should call it, sitemap.xml, XML being the format. So once you have this file, you're just going to let Google know that that file exists. So you're going to enter in the sitemap URL. So if it's in the root directory, all you're going to do is type in sitemap.xml and click submit. So once you've done it, just like this site is done, what Google's going to do is say, hey, look, we see you've submitted this. And we last read it a couple days ago, and we could see that we discovered 1,419 URLs. So I can go back under coverage, and I can see some of the issues that they found. But if I go back under sitemaps, I can see that these are the URLs they discovered via the sitemap. And so the whole point of a sitemap is we want to be able to get and push the URLs to Google, not have Google come to our site and discover them. So this is a quicker, faster, more efficient way to communicate with Google all the URLs that you have on your site that you want Google to index. And so that's the beauty of Search Console. Now, while we're in Search Console, we might as well take a look at some of the other features it has. And so one of the most important features under Search Console is this mobile usability report. So Google is a staunch believer in mobile first. So nowadays, most people start and finish a lot of their searches, a lot of their behavior on mobile. So they begin it on mobile and they may end it on mobile. So if they don't end it on mobile, then, perhaps they'll go into a store or perhaps they'll go via desktop. But Google is a staunch believer in definitely a lot of what's going on today starts with mobile. So they want you to understand how your site fares via mobile. And when I say fares via mobile, is it mobile friendly? Is it responsive? Is it loading quick enough? Is it formatted to Google standards? And so if there are any issues, Google's going to let you know what those issues are. So here I could see Google's recognized 206 pages for 4 different issues. Okay, so here I can see what those issues are. Just like the coverage issues, we can see specifically what they are. And so here I could see for 206 pages, text too small to read, click elements too close together, the viewport not set to device width, and then content wider than the screen. So there's 10 pages that fit under this error. And if I actually click on it, the error, I can see what those 10 pages are. And so when we're done, we can actually, when we address the issues, we can actually have Google validate whether the fix has been made. So you can definitely use this as a means of communicating directly with Google. Telling Google, look, I see what the issues are, I'm going to fix them, and then I want you to validate them. Okay, so this is important because if you can communicate with Google and let them know, hey, we do recognize the errors, we are fixing the errors, please validate them. You know, it's going to draw Google's attention. Google's going to validate them and get these pages indexed quicker. So if you ignore the issues and the errors, especially for mobile, then you stand the chance of your pages not getting indexed. So the mobile usability report to me is an important report because we want to better understand whether Google's picking up issues on mobile. And if they are, we want to address them, get Google to validate them so Google can index them quicker. Now, there's another report that is of interest to you or may be of interest to you in Google Search Console, and that's the links report. So the links report in Google Search Console tells us what pages have the most links. Okay, so here we can see the home page has 26,000 plus links. If we hone in on interior pages, we can see the links to those pages. Okay, so we can get a sense of what are the top link pages from external links, meaning links on other websites pointing to these pages. I can also see internal links. So Google is recognizing links from within my website from one page to another. So external links, internal links, both factors for SEO when ranking. So then I could see top linking sites, what sites are linking to my site. And then I can see top linking text. So Google Search Console is giving me kind of an overview of what my linking structure looks like. Okay, so externally, I want links from other websites pointing to various pages on my site. And I certainly want my pages linking to one another on my site. And so I'll be able to better understand what that structure looks like using Google Search Console's links report. Okay, there's one more report that I think is of interest in Google Search Console, and that's the performance report. So the performance report is a report that actually you can link up with Google Analytics. So you can see the same report in Analytics if you're able to link up Google Search Console with Analytics. And you should be able to do that. All you need to do is make sure you use the same email address that you use for Analytics and Search Console. So it needs to be the same email address. You could certainly link up the two and have this data imported into Google Analytics. So what is this data that we're talking about? Well, it's called performance. So what we can actually see is the queries, the actual queries people are typing in to Google. So when they're typing them into Google, we can actually see how many impressions the keyword queries received and how many clicks the keyword queries received. And then I can see click-through rate and average position. Okay, so here I can see for this particular keyword on the first line, I could see over the course of the last 3 months, it received 209,297 impressions. So what does that mean? That means this keyword was used at least or typed in as a query at least that many times. And that's how many times my listing appeared in the Google search results pages based on this particular query. And so as a result of somebody typing in this query 209,000 plus times, this site received 120,000 plus clicks. So to get a sense of the click-through rate, all you would need to do, and Google can obviously do this for you, is you would simply just divide the 209,297 into the 120,397. Okay, so that's really going to give you, your click-through rate, and the click-through rate in this case is 57%. So over half of the clicks occur when this listing appears for this keyword. Okay, so we can get a sense of the click-through rate for each one. Okay, and you could simply just use the filtering here. Now, we can also see average position. Okay, so we could see a little bit more than that too. We can go from queries to pages. We can go from pages to countries. So we can get a sense of how many impressions and clicks I'm receiving by country. And importantly, we can see by device. So here I can see a majority of the people who conduct a search related to my website primarily do it on desktop. Now, I mentioned the beauty of the Google Search Console Performance Report is that you can link it up to Google Analytics. And when you do that, all you need to do then is go to Acquisition, Google Search Console, and then from there you could choose landing pages, countries, devices, or queries. So I can see the same data that I see in Search Console, but this time I'm looking at it in Google Analytics. And so here I can see what my search queries are, my clicks, my impressions, my click-through rate by search query, and then the average position. So that's the great thing about that performance report, is that when I link up Google Search Console with Analytics, I'm able to see that data in Analytics. So that's an added bonus, so to speak. Now, let's talk about some other reasons why we're going to use these SEO tools available to us. And so we already listed a number of different reasons, ranging from sitemaps to keyword research. But we also want to hone in on, what domains are driving links to our site. So I showed you an example in Search Console. We also want to, maybe identify and disavow poor backlinks. So Search Console is a great tool for that, because if we don't want to be associated with a particular website, we can certainly disavow that link. We could track a number of follow and no follow links. Okay, we could track our website's rankings. We can measure click-through rates and impressions, just as we did with Search Console. We could track keyword ranking for desktop, mobile, cross locations, just as we just did with the Search Console Performance Report. We can identify top performing, gaining, and losing keywords. Again, the performance report. So we could certainly look at the Google Search Console report, but if you have a platform like Moz, you can certainly also look at a lot of that data available. So for example, rankings. So if you have a Moz account, we can certainly go into rankings. Okay, and we can see for the keywords that we've chosen that we want to optimize for, we could certainly see where they rank. The great thing about Moz is it's a great tool, not only for rankings and on-page optimization, but for off-page optimization as well. So if I go ahead and take a look at a domain, for example, I'm just going to type in this domain. I'm going to be able to get what they call a domain authority. So a score out of 1 in 100, I'm able to see how authoritative my domain is. And how authoritative a domain is based on the quality of links pointing to it. So Moz gives me some good insights as to how many linking domains, how many inbound links I have, ranking keywords, and it goes into detail as well. So here, if I click on the linking domains, I'm going to be able to see the actual domains pointing to my site as an external link. And not only can I see the domains, I can actually see the domain authority of those domains. So if there's a domain, for example, that doesn't have a good domain authority and the site appears a bit scammy per se, then we can disavow that. So I can certainly look at all the domains that are linking to me, and then I can highlight the ones that have poor domain authority. What Moz even takes it a step further. They also give me a spam score. So Moz is able to measure how spammy a website is. So if I have a combination of, say, a low domain authority and a high spam score, then I probably want to disavow myself from that site. And so I can use this report here. You can see here as I keep going down. For example, I could see this particular website has a domain authority of 26 and it has a spam score of 16%. So not a good combination. This should alert me to the fact that, hey, this particular site, because it has so many links pointing to me, or it has at least one link pointing to me, that I probably want to disavow myself because it's probably hurting my own domain authority. So that's the great thing about this linking domains report, is I'm able to hone in on not only who's linking to me, meaning domain, but how many linking domains does that domain have? What's the spam score of that domain? What's the domain authority of that domain? And then I can get into a little bit more detail and actually see, all the links pointing to that domain. So it really goes into detail about backlinks, domain authority, spam, etc. Everything you need to use in order to measure off-page SEO. So that's the great thing about Moz, is they have not only on-page SEO tools, but off-page SEO tools. And Moz is a freemium, so to speak. So here you can see, if you just go to moz.com/free-SEO-tools, you'll be able to use some of these tools available to you, not just for SEO, but also for local SEO as well. So here, you like some of these tools, you can start your free 30-day trial. So I use and lean on Moz a lot for all that it has to offer, from choosing keywords to rankings report, to checking issues on my website, to even checking who's linking to me. So this fits in the mold with everything I need to do for SEO. So in addition to that keyword research video, you could certainly lean on some other webinars that we've done in the past on SEO. So we've done a webinar on SEO tools, and we've also done a webinar on SEO tips and tricks. So if you want any more information about the tools we covered, or SEO in general, take a look at those two videos and check them out. And that should kind of complement what we talked about with using some of the tools: Google's Keyword Planner, Moz, and Google Search Console. Okay, let's switch over to email marketing tools. And so with email marketing tools, we have a lot available to us in the form of reporting, in the form of platforms, in the form of tools that really help us go from A to Z on our email, choosing what email to send out, to creating a list, to measuring how the email campaign went. And so we could start with MailChimp, because MailChimp's a freemium version. When we say freemium, meaning they have a free trial available, then you're expected to upgrade. But MailChimp to me is a tool I use. I like the interface, very easy for beginners. So we're going to take a look at MailChimp, but there are certainly many others available. Marketo is a good tool. Marketo is a good tool because if you have a business and you're trying to funnel people through your pipeline, so to speak, meaning they sign up as a lead and you want to nurture that lead from the beginning to the end, meaning at the end they're actually going to turn around and purchase. Well, Marketo is a good tool for you to use because you can then set up drip campaigns, or also known as email campaigns, so that you're talking and communicating with that particular prospect through every point in the funnel. So that's the great thing about Marketo. It has drip campaigns available along with some other features. There's HubSpot, is a very powerful tool. It does a lot, from creating landing pages to A/B testing to social to email. So this is another freemium tool that you could use. You have another freemium in Sendinblue email platform, and then you also have ConvertKit, another email platform. There's more dimension that we can't even fit on this screen. Now, if you have a favorite email marketing tool that you use, Constant Contact, Vertical Response, there are plenty out there. Emma, feel free to note that in the comment section below this video. I'm curious as to how many people actually use different tools, because there are literally so many email marketing tools out there. Why? Because email marketing has been around probably the longest amongst all the other digital marketing channels. And a lot of people use email on a daily basis. So it's no wonder why there's just so many tools available. And so with these tools, you could certainly send bulk emails. Now, in the case of Marketo, you could send emails to a segmented audience. And so that's actually what you want to do as a strategy, is always send emails to a segmented audience. You want to use a tool where you're going to be able to create campaigns, then send those campaigns to, again, segmented contacts, and then be able to design your email around that particular audience. So you have a good tool when you can do that, when you can really segment for your audience. Okay, you want to be able to use a tool that's going to be able to segment your users, use transactional emails, meaning, hey, look, if somebody went ahead and purchased, can you follow up with an email? And creating workflows, just like I mentioned with Marketo, you want a workflow set up where, hey, if somebody does this, you're sending email B, etc. So you want an email marketing tool that's flexible enough to handle what your business strategy and goals are. Okay, so you want to be able to also use a tool that, has various email templates available. Okay, you don't want to be stuck with just a vanilla template. Again, you want to be able to customize an email for your audience. You want to be able to manage your list appropriately, meaning if you have 10,000 users or emails in a list, you want to be able to manage them accordingly. Break them up or have sub-lists, so to speak. And then most importantly, you want to make sure you have a platform that not only does its tracking on its own, but will give you some detailed insights, meaning, what percentage of users opened your email? What percentage of recipients clicked on your email? What links did they click on? Which emails bounced? So you want some detailed insights right in the platform that you're using. It just makes it more simpler and easier and more effective to manage. You certainly want to create those smart automated campaigns, meaning you don't even have to send out the email. And then you want to be able to have some flexibility to set up email delivery based on a specific time and day. So these tools also allow you to segment contacts based on geolocation. You want to be able to use a tool that allows for multivariate testing. Again, you want to analyze performance and optimize campaigns. You want to trigger automatic responses. Somebody purchases something, are you using a tool that will automatically send that email out? So these are all the reasons why you would use an email marketing tool. So let's dive in and take a look at an example, and we're going to use MailChimp as our example today. So let's dive in and take a look at MailChimp. So with MailChimp, once you log in, you're going to be able to see some historical campaigns that you've sent out, or you're going to be able to create your own campaign. And so this is kind of under campaigns, you can kind of see an overview of the ones you've sent out, or if they're in draft mode, you'll be able to see they're in draft mode, so you can go ahead and edit them. So here we have one that was set up on August 26th, and it's still in draft mode, so we can go ahead and edit that. So if we just click edit, we have the flexibility to, pick and choose who we're sending this to, who it's from, what the subject line is. And then we can certainly design the email. So if we click design email, again, this is important because with email marketing, you want to be able to cater your email to your intended audience. So if you're selling men's shoes, your audience should be men. Okay, so you don't want men to receive an email about women's shoes. It sounds like it's common sense, but the point being, you want to be able to use an email platform that's going to be able to allow you to put two and two together. The message and the design with the intended audience. And so here you can see MailChimp allows us to do that. Okay, you can see some of the layouts here. Okay, you also have themes that you could choose from. Okay, you could search for different themes, or you can even just code your own. So you can just paste your code in, or you can import it. So MailChimp allows that flexibility. You're not stuck with one of their templates. And so if we go back to the dashboard, the one thing I like about MailChimp though is the reporting. Okay, so yes, it is easy to choose a template and map that template to your audience, but I really like the reports that they have to offer. So, here you can see there's some lists that we've sent to, and if we choose one of our audience lists, then we can see some really detailed reporting here. And so here I could see this email that was sent out in June. I could see it was sent to 95,000 plus subscribers. Okay, of the subscribers, I saw 2,000 plus open it. and 157 clicks. So I can view this report in more detail just by clicking on View Report. So again, we want an email platform that's going to be able to give us some detailed information about how that email campaign performed. And so I can get down really to the nitty-gritty. I can actually see, on the content, what was clicked and what wasn't clicked. So here I sent 2 different subject lines, so I'm able to compare the 2 against one another. Okay, so I can really go into detail about one of them here. So if I click View Report, I can specifically see what the average for this list is. So here I'm able to compare against the list average, and it's 16%. I only had an open rate of 2.5%. So the industry average is 18%. And so here I'm able to see the list average for the click rate and the industry average for the click rate as well. So then I can see some specifics about it, how many people unsubscribed. Then I can see a graph. I can see the top links that were clicked, okay, the top subscribers with the most opens. I can link social to it if I want to, and then I can see geographic information. So the point being is MailChimp really goes into some nice detail here about the email campaigns and how they performed. So the great thing is too, with the MailChimp, you can link it with Google Analytics. You can link it with e-commerce. Okay, so if you have an email and you're selling products and somebody purchased that product, MailChimp is able to integrate in with your shopping commerce platform. For example, WooCommerce. So if somebody did purchase, you can send out that thank you email. MailChimp even goes a step further, and if somebody did click on a link, go to your shopping cart, add something to the shopping cart, and then abandon the cart, MailChimp allows you the opportunity to retarget them via email. So MailChimp is flexible, and that's what you want in an email marketing platform. You want something that's flexible, that you can cater to your audience, you can manage your audience list, and you can get detailed reporting on your different campaigns for that audience. So that's MailChimp in summary. And so most email platforms do a lot of the similar features or have some of the similar features, but that's what you ideally want to look for in an email marketing platform. So here's a tool that doesn't get talked about enough when it comes to email marketing, and that's Google's URL Builder. And the reason why we're going to talk about this tool today is because most people in the US use Google Analytics as their web analytics tool. And the one thing about Google Analytics is it allows you to track different campaigns. So if you're doing pay-per-click campaigns outside of Google, you can certainly track the performance right in Google Analytics. And email is no different. So if you're using Google Analytics and you're sending out an email, let's just say on MailChimp or any other email marketing platform, you want to be able to append your links with what we call UTM tracking. So for example, if I have a URL that says Visit Florida and I'm going to send out an email, I have up to 5 parameters that I can use. Okay, so here's my email or URL that I'm using in the email. So I have up to 5 parameters that I can use to track this particular email. So let's go through some of those parameters. So the first one is campaign source. So what's the source of the campaign? Well, we could certainly identify MailChimp if we're using MailChimp as the source. Now, the thing about the URL builders, you always want to use lowercase because Google Analytics is case sensitive. So as a rule of thumb, just stick with a lowercase. So our source is going to be MailChimp because that's the platform we're using. If you're using, Constant Contact or Vertical Response or some of these other ones, ConvertKit, then go ahead and put in that platform as the source. Now for the medium, which is the means in which we're driving traffic to the site, let's go ahead and put in email because that's what we're using to drive traffic to this particular page. Now, what's the campaign name? Well, we're in summer, so we're going to call this the summer promo. So the summer promo here is Visit Florida Beaches. Okay, so we're going to send this email out to the masses, and particularly not only the masses, but the masses in the north, because we're going to say, hey, look, come to Florida for the summer. Come visit our beaches. That's the point of the campaign. So that's what we're going to use for the campaign name, is whatever the campaign is. It's a summer promo. Now, notice I got an asterisk next to these particular parameters. So Google's asking us, hey, these are mandatory. So go ahead and put something in there. Now for campaign term and campaign content, we could certainly leave them blank because they're not mandatory. But since we're talking about email, I would certainly recommend that you use the campaign content parameter. And why do I say that? Because if we're sending an email out to, say, 10,000 recipients, I want to be able to split out the email into two segments. One segment that's going to get subject line 1 and one segment that's going to get subject line 2. So in this case, I'm going to put whatever subject line 1 is in the campaign content field. So now I have 4 parameters, and once I've entered in my variables in those parameter fields, I now have a revised or appended URL. So my original URL was visitflorida.com/en-us/florida-beaches.html. My original URL. I've now appended that with some UTM parameters. And now I see my original URL appended with the UTM parameters based on those variables. So I can copy it just by clicking the copy URL. I can go to my browser. I can paste that URL in there. And I want to check to see if it works. So here I could see this particular page loaded, Florida beaches, with my UTM parameters appended to the URL. So that's for the first subject line. That's for the audience that's going to get the first subject line. I want to do another one for the second subject line. So now I'm going to change my campaign content parameter to subject line _2. I'm going to copy that URL. I'm going to check it. Okay, so I can see that the page loads with those UTM parameters. And so now what am I going to do? I'm going to use the first URL and the second URL in my email. Okay, so any link that I have, in this case, I'm using subject line 2. So for the email with the second subject line going to that segmented audience, this is the link I'm going to use in the email. So if you have 1 or 2 or 3 links in the email, this is the URL you're going to use. Because when somebody clicks on that link, you're going to be able to see that click in Google Analytics. So if I jump over to Google Analytics after I sent out my email, I'm going to go to acquisition. I'm going to go to campaigns. I'm going to go to all campaigns. Now, based on the variables I put into my parameters, meaning source, medium, campaign name, content, or term, that's what I'm going to look for in Google Analytics. So we could start with source and medium. So if I click on source and medium as my primary dimension, here I can see MailChimp, and the actual dates was used as part of the variable for source. And then what can I see? The medium being email. So now I can see for this email that was sent out in MailChimp in May, I could see how many users, how many sessions, and more importantly, how many conversions. So we could certainly hone in on that particular email if we wanted to. If we choose some of the other parameters available to us. So here I could see the campaign name. Okay, so I could see exactly what campaign, what source, what email drove in traffic and conversions. And if I'm doing subject line testing, I can choose content as my parameter. So here I'm going to change it to content. And now I can see the subject lines. In this case, if I go back to my source medium, I'm going to be able to see what subject lines from my emails generated the most traffic. And not only the most traffic, but also conversions. So that's the whole point behind using the URL builder. Again, you're taking a URL that you're going to use in email, and then you're going to append that URL with different parameters. Campaign source, campaign medium, campaign name, and then optionally campaign content or campaign term. Okay, once you've entered variables into those parameters, you're going to get an appended URL, which you can then use in your email. So when the email gets sent, you're going to go back over to Google Analytics and you're going to look at the results of that campaign, of that source, of that medium, of that content, i.e. subject line. And so that's why the URL builder is so important, because MailChimp gives us some good insight as to how the email performed in terms of open and click rates. But what we really want to see is how that campaign performed once it drove traffic to my website. So that's the whole idea behind the URL builder. If you're using Google Analytics, you'll be able to use the URL builder with whatever email platform you're using.